Ruth's story is one of the most remarkable in the Bible. A Moabite widow with no status, wealth, or connections, she not only found redemption, but also became a central figure in the lineage of King David and ultimately Jesus Christ. But how did she do it? We often hear about Ruth's loyalty to Naomi and her work ethic in the fields, but there's more to her success than meets the eye. Beneath the surface lies a hidden message, a set of timeless principles that reveal the true reason behind her extraordinary journey from an outsider to a key figure in God's plan. Today, we'll uncover 5 profound lessons hidden in Ruth's story, principles that not only explain her success, but can guide us toward meaningful change in our own lives. These aren't just historical details, they're timeless truths with the power to inspire and transform. Commitment over convenience. Ruth's journey begins with a decision that defies logic and personal convenience. When her husband dies, Ruth chooses to stay with her mother-in-law, Naomi, rather than returning to her own people. Her declaration is one of the most moving moments in the Bible. "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." Ruth's commitment is extraordinary. She sacrifices the security of her homeland and family to follow Naomi into uncertainty. This choice isn't just about loyalty, it's about faith. Ruth is choosing not only to stay with Naomi, but also to embrace Naomi's God, trusting him to guide her future. True commitment often requires sacrifice. This is the first lesson. Success often requires us to prioritize faithfulness over convenience. Ruth's unwavering dedication to Naomi demonstrates that loyalty and selflessness can open doors to opportunities we never imagined. In today's world, where convenience often takes precedence, Ruth's example challenges us to think differently. Her choice wasn't easy, but it laid the foundation for everything that followed. It reminds us that the most meaningful successes come from decisions rooted in love, faith, and a willingness to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term purpose. Ruth's commitment wasn't just an act of loyalty. It was a step of faith that aligned her with God's greater plan. And through that commitment, she found redemption, purpose, and a legacy that would last forever. Humility opens doors. When Ruth arrives in Bethlehem, she doesn't demand recognition or assistance. Instead, she humbly takes on the role of a gleaner, gathering leftover grain in the fields to support herself and Naomi. This act of humility speaks volumes about her character. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain, behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor." Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So she went out, entered a field, and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. Ruth's humility doesn't go unnoticed. Boaz, the owner of the field, sees her dedication and kindness and begins to show her favor. Her willingness to serve, rather than seek status, sets her apart and opens doors that lead to her eventual redemption. Humility creates opportunities for grace and favor. Humility isn't weakness, it's strength under control. By choosing humility, Ruth demonstrates a trust in God's provision rather than striving for recognition or power. In our lives, humility often acts as a magnet for grace. It creates space for meaningful connections and for others to see our true character. Ruth's story reminds us that the path to success isn't always about climbing higher. Sometimes it's about starting low and trusting God to lift us up in His timing. Through her humility, Ruth not only found favor with Boaz, but also stepped into God's greater plan for her life. Her actions remind us that humility isn't about diminishing ourselves, it's about positioning ourselves to receive God's blessings. The power of divine providence. Ruth's journey is filled with moments that seem coincidental but are deeply woven into God's plan. One such moment occurs when she begins gleaning in a field that belongs to Boaz, a relative of Naomi's late husband. This connection wasn't accidental, it was divine providence at work. So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you. And whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled." Boaz's protection and generosity were more than acts of kindness. They were evidence of God's guiding hand in Ruth's life. Each step she took, from her decision to stay with Naomi to her humility in gleaning, positioned her to receive God's provision through Boaz. God's providence guides those who walk in faith. Divine providence often operates through our choices, aligning us with opportunities and people we couldn't orchestrate on our own. Ruth didn't plan to find Boaz's field, but her faithfulness and humility led her there. In our own lives, we can trust that God is working behind the scenes, weaving together details we may not understand now. Like Ruth, our role is to walk in faith, trusting that God's providence will guide us to where we need to be. Ruth's story shows that when we step forward in faith, even the smallest actions can lead to extraordinary outcomes. God's hand is always at work, guiding, protecting, and providing in ways we often only recognize in hindsight. Boldness in the face of uncertainty. Ruth's humility is complemented by her boldness when Naomi encourages her to take a risk and approach Boaz. Ruth follows through, showing courage and trust in Naomi's wisdom and in God's plan. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." By making this bold request, Ruth steps out of her comfort zone, showing both vulnerability and confidence. She doesn't hesitate to act, even though the outcome is uncertain. Her actions demonstrate a unique blend of faith and courage. Courage opens the door to new possibilities. Boldness is often required to step into God's promises. Ruth could have let fear or doubt hold her back, but instead, she trusted that her boldness, paired with God's providence, would lead to something greater. In our own lives, boldness doesn't always mean taking monumental risks. Sometimes it's about having the courage to take small but significant steps forward, even when the path ahead isn't clear. Ruth's example reminds us that faith often requires action, and boldness can be the catalyst for blessings and opportunities. Ruth's courage not only changed her own life, but also played a role in the redemption of Naomi's family. Her boldness, guided by faith, led to a legacy that would impact generations to come. It's a powerful reminder that stepping out in faith is never wasted when we trust God with the outcome. Legacy through faithfulness. Ruth's story doesn't end with her marriage to Boaz. Her faithfulness leads to something far greater than personal security or happiness. It leads to a legacy that changes the course of history. Ruth becomes the great-grandmother of King David, placing her in the lineage of Jesus Christ. Salmon, the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of King David. This legacy wasn't built on wealth or status, but on Ruth's unwavering faithfulness to Naomi, to God, and to the steps of obedience she took along the way. Each decision she made, from leaving Moab to approaching Boaz, played a role in this divine plan. Faithfulness creates a legacy that lasts beyond our lifetime. The choices we make today ripple through generations. Ruth's story reminds us that our faithfulness in small, everyday moments can have eternal significance. It's not about striving for greatness, but about trusting God to use our faithfulness for His greater purpose. In our own lives, it's easy to underestimate the impact of our actions. But like Ruth, when we live with integrity, humility, and trust in God, we contribute to a legacy that reaches far beyond what we can see. Ruth's legacy is a testament to how God uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. Her story challenges us to live with the same faithfulness, trusting that God can use our lives to make an eternal difference. Ruth's story is more than a tale of loyalty and redemption. It's a testament to how faith, humility, boldness, and trust in God can transform even the most challenging circumstances. From her commitment to Naomi to her bold approach to Boaz, every step of Ruth's journey reveals timeless principles that continue to inspire and guide us today. Her legacy reminds us that success isn't about status or position. It's about faithfulness in the small moments, trusting that God is working through every decision we make. Ruth's life is proof that no matter where we start, God's plan can lead us to a purpose and a legacy that reaches far beyond our imagination. We'll continue exploring timeless lessons from the Bible, uncovering truths that inspire us to live with faith, purpose, and connection. Thank you for joining us on this journey.